Joplin, Missouri, the town from the song.
Little bad weather in Joplin. Supposed to be worse tomorrow.
Very excited to be in Joplin. Very excited to be on Missouri 66, the old Route 66.
Weather permitting, we would explore more, but there's always the way back.
For now, I guess we'll have to head on into the next town.
Bye-bye, Joplin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Springfield, Missouri. I had to make my way through Joplin, Missouri yesterday pretty quickly because they were having some stormy weather. But now we've made our way to the Queen City of the Ozarks, downtown Springfield, Missouri. I gotta tell you, it looks pretty darn nice down here. It is really peaceful and pretty out here today. Look at the square. People are doing yoga, they're walking their dogs. But it wasn't always so peaceful out here. See this little disc in the pavement? This little circle right there marks the spot where Wild Bill Hickok stood when he shot and killed a guy who was way over there. Apparently Wild Bill owed this guy, Davis K. Tutt, a little money, so Tutt took Bill's pocket watch. The thing is, Wild Bill really loved that pocket watch, so he warned Davis K. Tutt, don't you wear that thing in public, don't you humiliate me. Unfortunately, Mr. Tutt over here did not listen, and after being warned several times, was spotted once again showing off the pocket watch while standing way down over there. And Bill sees him from way over here. We are talking about old-timey, not very accurate guns. Wild Bill is standing way over there past that intersection and shoots Davis K. Tutt standing right over here. That seems physically impossible. Maybe that's the reason they still have these little circles in the pavement of the square to this day to mark the insane shot. Both men fired, but only Tutt was hit. He staggered back against this building and later died. I love this here. Nothing better described the times than the fact that dangling a watch held as security for a poker debt was widely regarded as a justifiable provocation for resorting to firearms. In other words, some guy dangles your pocket watch in front of your friends, you're like, oh no, shoot him, and you're okay. Weird. What's even weirder though is the plaques in the street. One over there for Bill, one over there for Tutt, commemorating this still 150 years later. But like I said, it's almost a miracle shot. Pretty crazy. Springfield, Missouri, the death place of Tutt. Well, Wild Bill Hickok's miracle shot is pretty neat, but that's not the only reason that we're in downtown Springfield. Because Springfield is not only the death place of Tutt, it's the birthplace of Route 66. We've talked about Cyrus Avery before, the father of Route 66, the guy that was in charge of all the boosters and promoters trying to get his national highway made. Well, Cyrus Avery's partner in crime was a guy by the name of John T. Woodruff, who owned several hotels in Springfield, including this giant building right here. And they finally convinced the U.S. government to build national highways. They were stoked. They were so excited until they found out that the number they picked out wasn't available. You see, Woodruff and Avery wanted the number US 60 for their highway from Chicago to LA, but some people from Virginia and Kentucky wanted the number 60, and there was no way they were coming off of it. They said, you guys can have Route 62. There was a lot of arguing back and forth, but eventually they came up with the idea, let's just use 66. It's catchier anyway. From a building right on this spot, right where this parking lot now stands, they sent the telegram to Washington saying that their highway would be called Route 66. So Route 66 was literally born right here. John T. Woodruff's offices were right there on the 7th floor, right along old Route 66, and it was businessmen like him and Cy Avery that knew the highway would bring prosperity to their region and to their businesses. So Woodruff was named the first president of the Route 66 Association, and it was from this building here that they did so much to advertise the highway and create the legend that became Route 66. People often ask me, why is Route 66 so famous? And the answer is because a couple of people in this building and in this old hotel that's gone now decided that they wanted it to be famous, and that's how the legend began. Sorry for the history lesson, but come on, Route 66 is a celebrity, and it was born right there. You know, it has nothing to do with the history though, but is right across the street is this. What in the world is this? Look it, it's the weirdest tree I've ever seen. There's a Robo tree growing right here on the side of the highway.
In a world where Robo trees dot the landscape, one man must travel Route 66 to unlock their deadly secrets and protect mankind by saying weird.
I've seen a lot of trees, but that is by far the weirdest tree on Route 66. How about that? Careful! There's a Robo tree. It might drop a Robo coconut on you.
You put the Robo in the coconut, you mix them both together. Put the Robo in the coconut and drink them both up.
Speaking of birthplaces, just after World War II, a guy named Sheldon Red Cheney bought a gas station right here on old Route 66. Gas station there, a couple of little wooden tourist cabins where people could spend the night were in the back by those trees over there. Well, since they were getting a lot of traffic on Route 66, old Red decided to add a cafe here. And because he had a small herd of cattle, he decided to serve beef. Hamburgers, to be specific. Nowadays, all that's left of Red's giant hamburgers is a couple of pieces of old concrete and pavement here. But this is actually a very historic and very important place, because in the 1950s, Red decided he could serve more customers if he cut a hole into the side of his building and let people drive up in their cars to a window to order and get their food. Eventually, so many cars were lined up in the driveway here, he had to add a speaker and microphone system to take the orders and then give them their food at the window. Oh, that's right. This small, almost vacant lot off Route 66 in Springfield, Missouri was the birthplace of the drive-thru window. Just a couple of pieces of sidewalk, a little bit of concrete foundations, and the old trees on the back of the property are all that's left to tell the tale. The drive-thru window was born right here. How wild is that? No plaque, no sign, nothing to tell the tale of the building right here. But just a little further down the road, there is something worth seeing. This is the famous sign from Red's Restaurant, or more accurately, a $15,000 replica paid for by the city of Springfield. Check it out, that's the original restaurant, and right over here is the original drive-thru window. See the sign out front? Before Red's was famous for its drive-thru window, it was famous for its weird sign, Red's Giant Hamburg? What happened was when they ordered the sign, it said Giant Hamburger. But just like me, every time that I do anything, they didn't measure correctly, so they didn't have enough room. So what did Red do? Well, he just chopped it off. It certainly made the business sound unique, and even long after the actual restaurant had to close down, the people of Springfield decided they didn't want to live without their funky sign from their favorite restaurant. They erected their new sign here at the Route 66 roadside park. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's a nice park, but what's more interesting is what's across the street. Check out all these funky mosaics on the side of the wall. Apparently right near this spot, the very first cabin was built in Springfield, so they did all these mosaic murals to commemorate the fact. They started this project in 2001, mostly with kids doing the work. It's the College Street Great Mosaic Wall. Look at this, there's some symbols on the wall here, you know, like crash symbols. Music inspires life, so it does. Got some informative signs here. Don't litter, okay. A lady named Grin with no face. I don't know what half of these are. I think this is a radioactive owl bat, but they're pretty cool. Looks like we have St. Louis Arch here with an old riverboat, an old-timey cowboy with a real horseshoe right there, one that would really terrify my girlfriend, covered wagons, an old train, and of course some tributes to Route 66. A lot of history on this mural wall. The kids who got to be part of this must have been stoked. I know I would be. They're obviously probably grown-ups now, but if I was one of the kids that put this together, I'd still be driving by like, oh yeah, I did that. You know, one really cool thing about Springfield is that it's still home to a lot of the old tourist courts. These all predated modern hotels. They were like little cottages or little cabins. The old Shamrock Court sign is still here. This would have been the front office, and back behind it are the little cottages, which I think now are rented out as little efficiency apartments. And the Shamrock's not the only one. Look at this. The sign in the window says the Melinda Court. Not sure what its old school name would have been, but this is a great example of early accommodations on Route 66. Look at those little stone cabins or cottages all arranged there in that semicircle. A perfect old school tourist court. And there's other examples all up and down this stretch of road. Look across the street at all those little buildings. It's a whole neighborhood of little apartments built out of old tourist courts. That is pretty cool. I can imagine them fixing that place up, getting a big neon sign, and being just as popular as, say, the Wigwam or the Blue Swallow Motel, something like that. There's a lot of history in this old neighborhood, and they know it. It's pretty cool that people take so much pride in being a part of Route 66, and they leave old trucks and old cars like this along the side of the road. I mean, really all over the place. Got another old flatbed boom truck or tow truck right here. Tow-mater's got a lot of relatives on the old highway. Old tow trucks, though, are becoming fairly standard sights for me. This, however, is a little different. Look at this old hearse. This is one of those cars that would be fine to cruise Route 66 in as the driver, but you definitely wouldn't want to be the passenger. Ooh, that's pretty cool. That's an unusual car to see along Route 66. Speaking of unusual cars, Springfield is also home to the 66 Car Museum. And this one is a little different from others I've seen. This museum is full of all kinds of epic, old school, rare cars. And I mean rare. Look at this 1936 Cord Model A10. I've never seen that before in my life. Have you? Or how about this little French three-wheeler? You don't see one of those rolling around every day. There are a lot of strange, unusual, and very rare European cars in here. Some of these are pretty rad looking. They look like cars from Batman, the animated series. Look at these. I've never heard of Allard Roadsters before, but they have some very unique front ends. They got some American cars too, and there's a lot more than just your standard 57 Chevy you'd see in these places. Buick Century, 1936 Pontiac, a Hudson Commodore, and look at this beautiful old Packard. My great-grandfather had a big old Packard like this, and then he got divorced. The only thing he had left was his Packard. He even had to sleep inside of it. From there, though, he rebuilt his empire, opened a small restaurant, had a rental house and stuff like that, so it wasn't the end for him. But that's a famous family story about how he lived in his Packard for a while. I could see living in one of these. They're huge. Mostly, though, this particular museum is full of cars I have never even heard of. I would love to take a ride in the back of this car. A Kissel Bug Speedster. Look at this, they got some 80s cars here too, like this Ferrari, and of course, the best, the DeLorean. Man, these things are so wide and so flat. Whenever I see one that's not all decked out like a time machine from Back to the Future, and it just makes me think of Glenn Guglia from The Wedding Singer. Don't yak in the car. Oh, I love that movie too. Look at these. Clearly many cars for the rich and the elite. Only the wealthy and successful could drive cars like these. Celebrities, politicians, businessmen, even Bruce Wayne's car is in here. Look at this replica Batmobile, the 1971 Gotham Roadster. That is my favorite car of all time. I don't think there's ever been a car in any other movie or TV show as epic as that. The 1955 Lincoln Futura concept car that legendary customizer George Barris turned into the 1966 Batmobile. Probably the coolest, slickest, sickest looking car ever. This is a replica, probably from a kit, but it still has a lot of the bells and whistles. The emergency bat turn lever, the bat ram, the bat scope. I want one. Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. I just love the bubble windows. Not sure what they would have done when it was raining. The original Lincoln concept car had a bubble top that went over this. But Batman and Robin apparently just like to be exposed to the elements. Maybe this car is the reason I love tail fins so much. I love that this place made the Batmobile part of Route 66. But that's not the only important car in here. Movie-wise, I mean. This museum also acquired one of only 5 licensed Ecto-1 cars. It's from the new Ghostbusters movie, not from the old original Ghostbusters movie. But that is still pretty cool right there. I haven't seen the new one, so I'm not too attached to this car yet. But there is another movie car in here that blew my mind. Have you watched The Grapes of Wrath yet? We've been talking a lot about that movie on this trip. We've even seen some of the places that it was filmed. So if you've seen it, question for you. Do you recognize this? Doesn't look familiar to you? Didn't look very familiar to me either. But it turns out that this unbelievably weird looking race car, which is a 1926 Hudson Speedster, should have actually been very well known to me because this car right here once looked like this. This is the most unbelievably mind-blowing thing I've ever seen in a car museum. This thing right here was the truck from the Grapes of Wrath. To build the Joad family's famous truck, they used the chassis and a bunch of parts from this 1926 Hudson Speedster. They turned this race car, basically, into a giant truck. Then when the movie was over, they took all the truck stuff off, put the half chopped up car in storage, where it sat for 69 years. An entire lifetime. Until eventually somebody bought the pieces for $4,000 and restored it to its original speedstery shape. That is so totally bizarre. I mean, it's a weird car anyways, especially with this tail on it for aerodynamics, I'm guessing. You can picture 2 old-timey chaps in their aviation hats and goggles and scarves flying down the road in that thing. But it is unfathomably hard to believe that it was once the actual truck from the Grapes of Wrath. That is a crazy transformation. The front grille and the front headlights, even the license plates, still look pretty much the same, but everything else looks so different. That is mind-blowing. That's the same engine in there and everything. The same car Henry Fonda drove in the movie. That is a crazy piece of American film and Route 66 history tucked away in that corner there. They also have this giant room in here where normally you can watch mechanics work on some old cars. They even have a few for sale. I'd love to buy this Model A, but it's a little bit out of my price range. I know most people my age and younger are not going to appreciate the Grapes of Wrath car, but maybe you'll appreciate this Resident Evil zombie protection truck.
Resident Evil, zombies, blades.
Look, kids, video games come to life. Finally, something for Grandma to enjoy at the museum. Looks like none of the mechanics are on duty today. I wonder where they went. Oh, here he is. Oh boy, that's a heck of a job he's doing on that car. Look at him working his little heart out. There's also a rare car over here used during World War II for German generals. Definitely a piece of history. This is where they used to attach the little flags that we'd rather not see. You know what I'm getting at? Creepy. I prefer the American Cadillac. Or how about this 1925 Model T depot hack? Back then, a hack didn't just mean, you know, a politician. It was a type of carriage. And they started making Model Ts that would look like the old hacks. A depot hack was a hack that took you to and from the train depot. A station wagon is a different way of saying the same thing. So this is one of the original station wagons, and now you know where that expression comes from. I'm learning. It blows my mind how big some of these old cars are. I mean, this here is a big, heavy machine. But it also blows my mind how small some of these old cars are. Look at this little guy right here. I love this. It's like an alley-sized car. This thing is barely one alley tall. Another little tiny car here made by Crosley. You know, the people that made the radios and the turntables? Crazy. I'm not like a super car guy or anything, but I have been learning a lot on this trip. It's been kind of fun. I still don't know how to change my own motor oil, but I do know how to appreciate a good Batmobile. So, you know. That was so cool. We just saw the Route 66 Batmobile, and now we've entered the Route 66 hot and humid mobile. Whoa, it's warm. There's a lot of really great, really cool stuff to see in Springfield. A lot of really beautiful old historic homes and Route 66 sites. But right now there's something off the famous highway that I really want to see.
Boy, Joe, look at the size of this fork!
Oh my gosh!
Look at the size of that gargantuan utensil!
How many people must drive by this thing and say, what the fork? I'm sorry, I had to. It's a 3-story tall fork. The world's largest fork. And according to this little wee sign down here, this marks the headquarters of the Food Channel. I don't know what the Food Channel is, but look at the size of that fork. Man, I want to use this thing to eat with so bad. Look, it's as thick as my head. But it looks like we're gonna need a giant dishwasher because that fork is stuck in the dirt. Whoa.
Now that's a dirty fork!
The world's largest fork! Wow! The craziest part is, look at this. It's just this nice little neighborhood, a nice little office building. You would never even know this gargantuan beast is back here. Oh, it's the world's largest fork! 35 feet tall! It's a giant fork and it's here for very little reason. Wow! I love this country. I saw the Batmobile and a huge fork. I am pleased. This was a big day for me. Which is why I've come back to old Route 66 to get a little rest. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Route 66 and Springfield icon, the Rail Haven Motel. Named for the old rail fences that used to be around it. This is just a little baby one for history's sake. The Rail Haven is well known for its very distinct sign. See the rail fence shaped around the edges? But to really appreciate it, you gotta see it at night. If you were coming down Route 66 from the east, the first thing you would see in Springfield was the Rail Haven. It was one of the most popular motels on the Mother Road. Elvis Presley slept here when he played in town. Pat Boone. Nowadays this place is run as a Best Western, but the history goes all the way back to the 1930s. Originally this place had a small gas station here, different building, same spot, and started out as a little motor court, kind of like the buildings we saw earlier. There were little stone cottages here. You could pull your car right up next to them and go to sleep. If you look closely, you can actually still see that a lot of the walls from the original stone cottages were left when they were incorporated together into one long motel. This place advertised steam heat, very fancy. And they still have some of the little buildings that held boilers and the old laundry facilities. And like I said, if you snoop around enough, you can still see a lot of the original stone buildings back here. The whole outer ring of motel rooms is all the original rock-built motor court buildings. But things really got kicked up into high gear in the 1950s when they built some more modern rooms, which would have been the era when Elvis Presley and Pat Boone were staying here. The thing about the Rail Haven is it's huge. And the last big expansion was 1957, which just tells you how busy this place was back in the day. Whoa, and look at this old school sign. The Rail Haven joined Best Western, which is a chain of independently owned hotels. Way back in the day, it's still one of the oldest Best Western properties that exists. They got a big old covered area for barbecuing, nice looking pool, and a must on Route 66, oh so swanky, old school automobiles. The awesome thing is that both of these old Fords still run. Earlier I watched a guy start it up and drive it around just to keep it in good condition. Certainly is a beautiful sight. And check this out. Inside the office they even have a Route 66 diner themed breakfast area. The old gas pumps outside certainly do add charm. But what really makes this big old place so awesome is that the outside may look exactly like it did in the 50s. But the inside is oh so nice. Look at that. Modern, comfortable things like a flat screen, you got a fridge and a microwave, 2 comfortable beds. We have everything we need here. Nothing about this feels old and gross, but you still get the cool 1957 vibe out of it somehow. Nice big bathtub, shower there. Ooh, pedestal sink. This is old school, the soap dish in the tile there. Reminds me of my grandma's old house. Clean new furniture, but the colors and the style give it a little bit of a retro vibe. You know what I mean? I could picture this chair being around in the 50s, even though I know it's new. And what's extra cool are these frames with old photographs of this hotel. Which means even if you didn't know anything about the history, you could totally get into it. Look at, there's Lawrence Lippman, one of the brothers that built this place. There's the old cottages back in the 30s. And here's the same buildings now, part of the modern hotel. Oh, here's my wing right here. There it is in the 50s, and there it is now. Sweet. I can't eat out at restaurants, so having a microwave and a fridge is very cool for me, because I can always go to the grocery store, grab something, and make it here. I mean, I do carry some stuff in my food box there, but it's nice to microwave it instead of cooking it on a camp stove. Oh, I'm so tired, and it feels so nice and clean in here, and there's air conditioning and From what I understand, they do have an Elvis Presley and a Marilyn Monroe suite. But I asked, and they're taken right now by bikers from Sweden. Darn those Swedes. That's okay though, because I'll tell you this much. If I ever come back to Springfield, this is where I'm gonna stay. After all, if it's good enough for Elvis, it's good enough for me. You know, I've never slept where Elvis slept. Slept where Elvis slept. I've never got to stay in the room where Elvis slept. But one of these days, it's gonna happen. Ooh, ancient aliens. Route 66 is a long and cool road. A highway more than 2,000 miles long in the 1920s? There's no way humans could have built that. Only explanation, aliens. This is the first TV I've watched this whole time. Those shows can really suck you in. Well, wait, it's worse than I thought. It's already dark outside. Well, a clean room is a nice feature, but you know what's better? Epic freaking neon. Dude, a sign like this could say anything, and I would be stoked to see what it was. Hot coals! Needles! It's neon! The funny thing is, I see a lot of old arrow-shaped neon signs that are all broken down in disrepair all over Route 66. Can you imagine if every single one of them was fixed up like that? And it's not just the arrow or the office. Check out that bad boy down there. Let me just climb over the rail here. Yes! Oh, heck yes! Look at that! I told you it was better at night. Why every business on the world isn't still using epic old light bulbs and neon on their signs, I have no idea. When I was growing up next to Disneyland, every sign up and down Harbor Boulevard nearby had neon like this. It was like magic. You didn't even need to be in the park to feel like you were part of the fun. There's just something about it. We're like fireflies. Neon must fly closer. I guess that's more like a moth. I can't think. Look at that. That is so epic. All right, gang. I can't stay up all night looking at neon. There's a long drive ahead of me tomorrow. After all, we barely just poked our nose into Missouri. We still have the whole state and all of Illinois to go. The adventure's not over yet. There's much more ahead.
For right now, it's time to hotel and
edit video well.
But as long as the alarm clock works, I'll get up tomorrow and keep at it.
Check out the links down below in the description. Patreon and Spreadshirt. Got some hats and t-shirts on there, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
think of some more fork puns that aren't like naughty, you know? Like, who the fork left this in the ground? That's no good. You don't want to, you know? It's stuck in the forking dirt. That's no, you don't want to do that. It's kind of, it's pretty borderline, you know? Trying to think of some other ones, some clean ones, some clean. The fork in the road, but it's not in the road. Let's see. I was finally stumped by a fork. Yep, I got nothing. Never mind.